Hello, Victoria. How are you?
Hi, Lance. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You are undertaking a $100 million renovation and expansion that began in October and should, I think, fingers crossed, wrap in the fall of 2022. What is the latest on construction?
It's looking like we are still on schedule to open to the public in 2022. We're hoping it might be a little bit before the fall, but we're keeping our fingers crossed that our construction can continue at the pace that it has been, that our supplies can continue to be available as they have been. And it's just been a success story at MacArthur Park. We're so thrilled with how our contractors and subcontractors have been able to keep this project moving forward.
Warren Stephens, who is the CEO of Stephens Incorporated and a key backer of the museum, of course, says you're spending about $4.5 million per month on construction and trying to keep local companies involved. So how has that process been, and how have you been trying to ensure that that happens?
Warren Stephens, he is the chair of the Arkansas Art Center Foundation. And really, he and his entire family have been tremendous supporters of the Art Center over the decades. And one of the key, I think, markers of success of this project is that it is an Arkansas project. 90% of the subcontractors are from Arkansas. And so when we say we're spending $4 and $4.5 million a month on the project, that means those monies are going back into the economy. And they're staying within our state, and they're employing people, and we're really proud that we're able to keep this story an Arkansas story.
You have said that you want this renovation to be awe-inspiring. So how are you going to do that? Are there some surprises about the design that you can share, kind of exactly what we'll see when the project wraps?
Well, I think going to a place like a museum, experiencing art should be awe-inspiring. It should be an experience unlike one that people have every day. And it should be something that's very special. And certainly when the Art Center selected Studio Gang out of Chicago as its architect, we wanted an awe-inspiring building. And so the building itself will be a work of art. I think when people see the building, they'll be surprised by the size and scale of it. The footprint itself is about 137,000 square feet, or the total square footage is about 137,000 square feet. So it's quite a bit larger than the previous building. But really, when you walk in, the entire lobby space, really the entire main corridor of the Art Center is filled with light. It's bright, it's welcoming, it's intuitive. And really, a lot of the spaces that we're creating, they're not only spaces for art, but spaces for people. We want people to feel comfortable when they come into the Art Center. We want them to feel welcomed. And we want them to use it as a place to hang out, too. So many times in the museum field, we hear how it's cost prohibitive for people to go to a museum because it's a high entrance fee. And we remain committed that the Art Center will be free. And so we hope when people not only come in and see art and see a performance or make art, they're awe-inspired, but we hope they're awe-inspired when they see the building and the grounds as well.
You're adding about 20,000 square feet of new space, I believe, to the footprint. But then you've got the old 1937 Art Deco facade of what was the Museum of Fine Arts, as I think it was then known, as a key feature of the design. So how does that figure into the overall piece? Is that sort of the centerpiece of what we're doing there, or is that a new signature piece, or how would you describe that?
Well, we're actually adding a little over 40,000 square feet to the square footage. So
Wow,
it is it's quite a bit bigger.
Okay.
But, I think the thing about the 1937 facade is it was when the Art Center opened in 1937, it was called the Museum of Fine Arts, and it was the only arts organization and the largest arts organization in the area, in the community. And because of that, we have a legacy, we have a history throughout the decades. The Art Center has been collecting art, and we have a collection of about 14,000 works of art. And that doesn't happen overnight. And so to be able to mark our legacy by preserving this facade, to be able to use the facade as our primary north entrance to the Art Center, I think is a pretty special thing. And I will reveal a little surprise about the 1937 facade. So when you walk through those doors, you will be met by a 2-story lobby that will really, I'll use the term awe-inspiring, but it'll really, I think, be very impressive for people to see the size and the scale of that space. There'll be some side mezzanines where people can sit and people can look at the art that we'll have on view in that 1937 lobby. But that period when in the 30s, when that facade was built, really the proportions of the space are so beautiful. And it's that Art Deco period where you see that real stylized lettering on the front, and there's reliefs carved in the front that give you a sense of what's inside, because of course they're works of art in and of themselves. So I think it's going to be a very special entrance. And then of course the other primary entrance will be our south entrance, which will be 100% 21st century studio gang design. And given the signature roof line that I think many people have seen, those renderings where you have that kind of almost zigzag effect of the roof line, you have the glass that's underneath the roof line, you really get a sense of the where we've come from in 1937 to where we are in 2022 when we open our doors to the public.
How will the museum appeal to new generations of patrons, but then also deal with this post-COVID-19 world that we know nothing about right now? We don't know what that's going to look like. But it could be that social distancing might be a greater consideration. How is that design going to square off with all of that?
When we designed the cultural living room, which is a large open space designed for events, designed for gathering, with 4 sides of glass, we really hope that that's a space that people will want to gravitate to. We really hope that that's a place that people will want to spend their time. And certainly thinking of the way that we socialize now, we may need to rearrange the furniture in a different way. We may need to adjust our capacity, but we definitely hope that we continue to be that gathering space. To have a gathering space in a museum gives the public an opportunity to encounter something maybe they've never encountered before. It could be a work of art, it could be a performance, it could be a drink that they're having that they got in our restaurant and they brought up to the cultural living room, and they're relaxing and meeting some friends after work. But it's this idea that museums are spaces where we can stretch our minds and we can stretch our experiences and get to know new things, get to discuss things that perhaps we might not otherwise, get to meet people who give us new perspectives, and do all of that in a space that's safe and that's welcoming and that encourages that kind of cross-communal discussion and socializing.
How has COVID-19 and then the restrictions surrounding the outbreak affected the planning and construction so far?
I would say, other than the fact that it's restricted travel for our architects and some of our key team leaders on this project, we really have not skipped a beat. There has been, as I said before, some concern about getting the materials that we've needed, but we've really been very fortunate. And our materials are getting to us. Our workers continue to move the project forward at the job site. Our subcontractors continue to come in. In fact, at the very beginning of COVID, back in March, there were some construction projects that had to close down. And because of that, we gained some workers. So
Oh,
we
wow.
really had this
Yeah.
very unique momentum going. And, you know, remember, we have such a big project. So we can have crews working on the north, south, the east, west side of the construction site, and everything is really moving forward at a pretty fast clip. Now, I say all of this, and there's still some unknowns. And so I would say that we will have a much better idea of our exact opening date in 2022. We'll have a much better idea of that probably in the fall. There are still a few unknowns. We had a couple of shipments that were coming from Europe, and we were concerned that they weren't going to be able to, or they were going to be so delayed that it was really going to hold up our timeline. And, you know, fingers crossed, but right now they're all on schedule. So we're feeling really good about where we are with the construction.
The Arkansas Art Center, backed by one of the biggest names in Arkansas business, Stephens, and you regularly work with Warren and Harriet Stephens. What kind of guidance do you get from them, and how exactly does their influence play out on the project?
You know, I don't even know where to begin to answer that question, because these are two individuals who have really put their heart and soul into this project. Certainly, there's a business acumen, there's a vision for this community that is rare to find in any community. But I think that what's been most influential is the time and energy that they put towards not only the construction project, but also the campaign. You know, in any community, the biggest decision, or in any project like this, the biggest decision is to say, how big should this be? And they found that spot where I think many people know we're very close to completing our original campaign goal. But they also found the spot landed on the budget that will yield us a transformative building, but also be one that the community can continue to support. And so that idea of sustainability, that idea of having a facility that could grow as the community grows, all of those things were considerations when Harriet and Warren started to really envision this project and started to pull the team together that would make this project a reality. But, you know, to have a couple that is so willing to just continue to guide throughout the years is it's pretty special. And knowing too that we still have a few more years to go, but they never seem to run out of energy. So I'm grateful for that as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a consistent thing, right? I mean, it's the family, and it's been decades, and that's I would imagine that is probably pretty special around the country. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I would think that that's a unique thing that maybe you don't find in every market.
It is a unique thing, and I have to say it's one of the key ingredients to a successful project.
In terms of just the broader issue of fundraising now in a COVID-19 environment, are you having to, do you see having to adjust your pitch a little bit? I mean, I would imagine that people are looking for other places to put their money. There are other needs that have emerged, right? That probably philanthropists and other people who can donate those dollars may be attracted to. So, I mean, how do you make the case for the arts? Does that change at all, or is it still the same? Or do you have your target audience that you always know will support this thing? Or how do those calculations happen?
You know, certainly with COVID, with some of our funders, we've had to hit the pause button. We've had to say, let's regroup in a few months. Let's regroup when there's a little more certainty. Fortunately, we do have many supporters who are with us through everything that through thick and thin. And so we do have those supporters that we can count on, not only for campaign contributions, but also for contributions to our annual fund, which of course is, we're always raising money for our annual needs and our operations. But, we have to recognize that the world and our community is experiencing something that nobody could have predicted. And there are needs that we couldn't have predicted. And I think what's even more scary is we don't know how this is going to end or when it's going to end. And so we continue to be very conservative in our annual spending. We continue to be very conservative with our budget, but also very mindful that we have a mission and we have a purpose, and we want to continue to fulfill that. So the campaign, I would say, has suffered a few bumps. One of the very fortunate things is that we were able to raise the money that we have in such a short period of time. And so even though we've had to take a pause, if we're able to come back and continue our fundraising in the fall as we had been, we do have some time to continue to do that. And I will say another thing too about what COVID has taught us. For an arts organization, we rely on many strands to get our money. There are many avenues that we pursue that make up our budget. We have earned revenue through our classes and through membership. We have funds that we receive from the city. We have funds that we receive from our endowment, and that of course comes through our foundation. And what we've really learned, and what's become very apparent with COVID, is that the only funding source we can really rely on is our endowment. And even though the money is not earning as much as it has, it's not yielding as much as it typically would, we have not been able to rely on earned revenue. We have not been able to rely on other revenue sources because they've been diverted to other areas. And so when we think about the campaign, we are that much more committed to increasing our original goal and to making sure that we can raise as much money for the endowment as we possibly can.
Speaking of development, you've got a new development director, Lisa Jones-Black, who comes to the Art Center from UAMS. What does she bring to the museum?
Well, Lisa, I believe, is in about week 6 right now, and her knowledge of the Arkansas community, her knowledge of Central Arkansas, her familiarity with Central Arkansas, and her understanding of just the community and what it cares for, what it values. And when she certainly is starting to get to know the Art Center internally a little bit more, she's really starting to see how what we do is reflected in what the community cares about. Lisa is just a pro, and one of the real, I think, advantages that she brings is not only her development background, but also her marketing background. And so when she really is approaching not only our campaign, but our annual fundraising, she's really looking at it from a very strategic perspective. And reminding people that when you invest in the Art Center, you're investing in your community, you're investing in education, and you're really making a Central Arkansas investment. It's not that you're investing in something that is a nice to have. It's something that's been around for a long time, and we are the generation that needs to keep it going, and it's a have to have. So we're just delighted to have Lisa on board, and she's got great ideas too. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does.
That's good. You can always need ideas. That's for sure.
Yes. Never a shortage of good ideas.
You are suddenly leading the museum through a challenging time, of course. Not only this monster renovation, but also you've got the global pandemic as a side item. What have you learned about having to lead an organization through uncertain times?
I think the number one thing that I think about is the importance of being genuine and transparent with everybody who is around me and who is around us, the Art Center. There's so much uncertainty right now. And so as the new executive director, I need to make sure that staff know what's going on. They understand why certain decisions are being made, and they feel connected to the Art Center. We're all working remotely. We tend to see each other for a meeting here and there when we absolutely need to, but for the most part, we're staying safe and keeping our offices closed. And because of that, we want people just to continue to feel connected. And I would say the same thing about our members and our funders and the people who care about us. We are here to be completely transparent about what we're doing, why we're doing it, why we've had to make some of the decisions that we've made, and what our needs are. And there's an awful lot that we don't know when we look ahead. But at the same time, there's an awful lot that we do know. And, that is one thing that we talk about quite a bit as staff. When we gather as a staff, everybody who works for the Art Center, and we have these big group Zoom calls, it is absolutely incredible to think about the range of talent that we have as a staff and what we know will be true of our future. We know that we'll continue to remain true to art and remain true to the community. And it's just a matter of reminding people of that. And sometimes you can't say it enough. So it's a constant drumbeat.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Victoria Ramirez, the Executive Director of the Arkansas Arts Center in Little Rock. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Lance.
You bet.